Welcome back. This is Ken with another video. Just shooting this video, so hopefully my audio comes out. I uploaded a video about Sega CD about a week ago, and I'm gonna take that video down and replace it with this video. So yeah, there's a lot of parts I missed out on that I told you about on the Sega CD. So this is my Sega CD Model 2, my Sega Genesis Model 2. I pretty much bought this because my cousin had one growing up, and I'd go over to his house, and he would have like an NES, Super NES, and then Sega CD. So kind of what got me into collecting, really. He used to come over to my house. Which I live in Idaho, and he lives in Utah. So when he will stay over, usually a week at a time. Same with me. I go to visit my grandma, and my cousin lived a few blocks away. So I just walk to his house and play video games. So I was into like retro PCs, like the TI 99 4A, the Apple II, and he was into consoles. And I started getting into consoles. I had a Atari 2600, a Sega Genesis Model 2, a Super Nintendo, and then an N64. So the Super Nintendo and N64 was shared amongst me and my brothers, but I had a Sega Genesis, so that's why I bought this. Yeah, I tried to buy a Sega Genesis from another retailer, and or not retailer, but seller. And he screwed me, never shipped it. It was like 24 bucks plus probably another $24 for shipping. So he never shipped it, so I got my money back on that deal after about 3 weeks back and forth with eBay. So now I got this one, and this one was $79 with free shipping, so it's a good deal. If you do buy one of these consoles used, I wouldn't pay anything over 50 unless you're buying it off eBay, and if you're paying about 80 bucks like me, then make sure it comes with free shipping. You know, anytime you're throwing down that kind of money, people are willing to ship it out to you instead of screw you. I think it was kind of probably buyer's remorse on his part, because I contacted the seller and he never shipped it. So yeah, this came with a Sonic CD. Yeah, that's a pretty cool game. Right now I'm playing it on the HD TV through my HDMI converter, from composite to HDMI. So it looks pretty good. Yeah, so the Sega CD. What else? I ordered a new laser for it. So lasers are cheap. It says brand new instead of refurbished on eBay, so we'll see. I should probably get that in a week. Yeah, the reason why I did that, because sometimes I'll be playing a game, and all of a sudden the laser will just restart, or not the laser, but the game will restart. So I suspect the laser is going out. So yeah, $15. It's not bad. I think it's called Liberty something. I don't know. I've seen a bunch of forums and stuff with people recommending that type of laser. So, you know, from that seller. So, yeah, we'll see. I think I'll do a video on it to show you how to replace the laser in a Model 2 Sega CD. Another cool feature about Sega CD, as you look at all my mods and junk, is you could burn games. There's absolutely no copyright protection. I already got a good stack going. So for this, I kind of do encourage, you know, instead of getting a flash card to download games for the Sega CD, primarily because games are expensive for CD-based games, and if you notice on eBay, everybody says rare. Everything's rare nowadays. Um, so yeah, Sega CD in itself is rare. It's my favorite add-on. So yeah, you're better off burning the games. Actually, this Sonic CD game, I reburned. I actually took the scratches out with a DVD Doctor, kind of like a scratch resurfacing home kit I got, and then I ripped the game to ISO and reburnt it. When you burn games, you probably want to burn. I use image burn. Actually, I have old Windows XP CD, or sorry, Windows XP computer PC um, that I just used to burn. It has dual DVD drives. One's a CDR/CDRW. The other one's a DVDR/CDRW. Um, so I just burn it on 1X. You want to burn the games really slow, or the Sega CD won't work. When you burn games, it's just a typical CD-R. So that's just a point to make. I honestly, though, a lot of these developers are not making money on these games anymore. So I figured, yeah, you might as well burn them. And a lot of them are crap, so you don't even know which ones are good. So instead of investing money in games, just burn them off the internet and then play them. So yeah. What else? There's a lot of stuff that I left out on my other videos. So I guess the other thing that you need to know, it came out in 1992 in the U.S., I think in 1991 in Japan. What else? Yeah, pretty much it. I mean, it has a processor. I think it's running at 15 megahertz. I think it's a Z80 processor. It gives you dedicated audio, so it has left and right audio. So that mod I did on the back where you see those, you notice I just have the yellow hooked up. That's mostly because the Sega CD gives the Genesis games and the Sega CD games better, superior audio. So it gives you left and right audio. The Model 1 Sega Genesis had mono audio out. So I like the Model 2 just because it's a little bit sleeker. I thought about getting a Model 1, but the Model 1 is almost as big as the whole entire Sega Genesis and Sega CD. It's almost, I think the Sega CD add-on gives the Model 2 Genesis about a couple more inches. Yeah, kind of another thing that I was thinking about, it's like I wish game systems had expansion ports nowadays like they did back then, because I think it's a cool idea. It adds additional functionality. If Sony and Microsoft were to do that, it'd be kind of cool just to add either more graphics capability to games. Maybe have two versions of a game on one disc or something like that. With Blu-ray technology, sky's the limit, really. I don't think most of the games fit the whole Blu-ray. Well, I take that back. There are some games I download that are probably 20 to 30 gigabytes, and most Blu-rays will hold 40 to 50 gigabytes. So, yeah. So, the Sega CD itself holds about 600 megabytes back then on the standard compact disc. So, yeah, the CD-Rs I'm burning to are like 700 meg. So that just goes to show how far technology has came along. You get an additional 100 megabytes on standard CDs. There's another add-on for the Genesis called the 32X. In my opinion, I think the Sega CD is better than, I won't say better than this 32X, but it just looks like it's meant to be. I think they designed this in advance. It kind of looks like it, at least with the Model 2. The Model 1 might have been an afterthought, but I kind of like the fact that they put expansion bays on consoles, because you never know. I think they wanted to kind of grow, because technology back then was moving fast. Technology nowadays has kind of slowed down. So you know, kind of the point is like you have a computer or a PC from 2 years ago is pretty much as same as a PC in 2015. So, you know, technology has slowed down. So I think that's why you don't find uh, weird, you know, things like this these days. Um, yeah, I was trying to think. Yeah, the Sega CD, you can buy expansion cart. What I mean by that, you can put a cartridge in the slot to hold more game saves. The Sega CD itself will it will save games to itself. I think it's like, I don't know. They say it's 200 blocks, whatever that means. Probably like you know, I'm gonna assume it's like a probably a megabyte in its RAM, and what that means is there's a rechargeable watch battery inside the Sega CD, so it automatically saves your games. Mine's not dead because I can still hit continue on Sonic CD and play from my last save point. Um, yeah, it's kind of a cool feature. I think a lot of the Genesis games, almost every Genesis game I own don't have that option. And most of the Super Nintendo games I own, almost all of them don't have that option. So it's kind of cool that you can save your game states on most games with the CD technology right to the Sega CD. Yeah, if you leave the Sega CD unplugged for, I was reading online, if you leave it unplugged for a few weeks or days or whatever, then the battery could discharge because it's like a RAM memory that it saves it to. That's why you have a backup battery in it. Some people have reported their backup battery is completely dead and doesn't charge back up, and then you have to find alternatives. Um, mine, when I ordered it, I opened it up because I like to clean the you know, I like to grease the CD rails, the gears, and all that. And it has a Pico fuse, and that was blown because someone soldered it's usually over here is a blank area on the Sega CD, so they soldered a fuse holder and a glass fuse, because the Pico fuse is hard to find. So I've seen that a lot of people have a Sega CD and the fuse is always blown. So yeah, if you can find one of these for like $20 on eBay with free shipping because it's broken, it doesn't turn on, then I would probably take a chance on it and buy it, because you never know, it might just be a simple you know, fuse fix if you can fix the fuse. Some people bridge it. I don't recommend that. The Super Nintendo right here, I fixed the fuse in there. Kind of the same trick. I had a Pico fuse as well, and I soldered it directly to the board. A standard glass fuse. I think it was like a 3.5 amp or something like that. Maybe it was 1.5 amp on this. This one takes a 2.5 amp on the Sega CD. So that's a trick. I mean, honestly, if you can find one that doesn't turn on, maybe reports it doesn't read a disc. If you're looking at $15 for a new laser, and granted, if there's nothing wrong with the board, then yeah, for $15 and a few cents, you can get a new laser and a new fuse for it. And you know, you don't have to get a fancy fuse holder. You can probably just solder the two ends of the fuse to two pieces of copper wire, and then solder those leads to the board. And then you'll have pretty much a new Sega CD at that point if you have a new laser. This one has a metal plate underneath of it, so you can attach the Genesis to the Sega CD. That's almost always gone. So if you're buying one on eBay and you're paying $80 like I did, at least that should come with it in the power supply. This one has an aftermarket 9-volt 2-amp power supply. The amperage is kind of the most important part because it's 9 volts, which is not a lot. You would think a CD system would take about 12 or so, but it's the amperage is higher than probably what you'll find. So make sure it comes with some kind of power supply. So That's probably not as easy as it seems to find one that's 2 amps. And maybe it's 1.5 amp, but the 2 amps is not hurting it, so I haven't done too much research on that. Yeah, the Sega CD pretty much adds more graphics capability, probably about as much as the Super Nintendo does. So that's kind of a cool feature. The Sega Genesis came out before the Super Nintendo, so when Nintendo released their 16-bit console, Sega didn't realize how much the Super Nintendo was going to add in terms in pseudo 3D, like I showed you that kind of that Sonic scene where it was they're going up the ramp or whatever, the half pipe or whatever you want to call it, or yeah, I'll say half pipe, whatever. So yeah, it gives kind of pseudo 3D. It would have been nice because the Sega CD did come out prematurely, I would say, in my opinion, because the reason why they came out with it because Atari released the Jaguar, which really wasn't a threat, but Sega saw it as a threat. So Sega was rolling out their Sega CD add-on as quickly as possible. And then they rolled out the 32X because the Atari Jaguar is supposedly 64-bit, but there wasn't any games really developed to show off the capability of the Jaguar. And the Jaguar also had CD capability. So, short story, just in that, it's the Jaguar just, Atari, I'd say, went out of business, and not entirely, but yeah, they just got out of the console market and just decided to develop games and probably arcade stuff and like that back in the early 90s. So and then they released the 32X because pretty much the PlayStation was coming out and all that, and the 32X was just that mushroom-shaped add-on, and there was probably like, I think something like 29 games were released for the 32X, so the game library wasn't big, and I think the Sega CD sold about 2 million units in the US, and I think the 32X was like in the 100,000 range, maybe 800,000. So definitely the Sega CD was the add-on of choice. Another thing is, like back in the 90s, CD players, especially early 90s, they were expensive. Not expensive as CD players in the 80s. Yeah, there were CDs in the 80s. You could research that because my father, he had CDs. He kind of adopted that technology for audio. So when you're playing audio CDs, this is the way to do it. You can hook it up to your stereo amp and get audio CDs to work. So that was cool. And the Sega CD was I hear it was $300 launch, and I also hear it was $400 launch. So even at $400, you get a CD player and a game console. It's kind of like the reason why I bought a PS3. I get a Blu-ray player for $50 more, basically, and a game console. So I think it was a good add-on back then. I just don't think a lot of people seen the potential. The games for it kind of sucked. I had what they call FMV games, which are movie QuickTime event games, and that wasn't as popular. A lot of games sucked. A lot of developers didn't take advantage of the console's capabilities. The best games to really get, it's like Terminator, or Sega CD, or Sonic CD, I mean. Cliffhanger was pretty good. So any direct ports from the cartridge, they just kind of add like some video cutscenes, but that actually gives it better abilities, than some of these gimmicky, like, click, kind of point and click games like Jurassic Park. I burned that. That game just sucks. It wasn't even worth the CD that I put it on, to be honest. And you can also collect games for this. The games, like I said, is expensive, but if you're a collector, if you're in that market, I'm a gamer. I don't really care to collect the games. I kind of like collecting the consoles myself. I don't care as long as I have a controller in my hand and I'm playing them, and it's not like emulation. Then I'm good to go. Um, so yeah, this is just kind of a kind of the reason why I bought a Sega CD. So yeah, it's interesting. I thought I'd give it a shot because I missed out on it in the 90s, other than just going to my cousin's house and playing Sonic CD and kind of being able to touch some of his games and not really, he was kind of protective over it, I think, but he never said that. But um, yeah, I thought I'd buy it, check it out, and I I think Sega is a good console to collect for because the company is barely around nowadays. So if you're adding the game system to your collection, I would go with Sega Genesis, maybe even the Sega CD add-on if you want to start collecting games cheap. It's cheaper than Super Nintendo. And when I mean cheap, probably like $10 a cart. So it's not really up to Super Nintendo standards like $20 a cart or 30 or 40 or 60 or higher than that with some of the quote unquote rare games. So it's a good console to collect for. All right, have a good one.